Today is Friday, September 27th, 2024, and the time is 1:01 p.m. We are here today for a public hearing regarding amendments to the CFB rules as published in the City Record on August 28th, 2024. Pursuant to Section 1043 of the New York City Charter, a public hearing is held to provide an opportunity for public comments on proposed rule changes. A video recording is being made of this proceeding and will be made part of the public record for this rulemaking. These amendments are being made regarding complaints, conflict of interest board filings, contributions, disclosures, expenditures, independent expenditures, loans, public funds payments, registration and certification, statements of need, training requirements, and transition and inauguration entities. Please note that given community input, the CFB has extended the time period for written comments on these amendments until October 25th, 2024. You may submit comments at rules.cityofnewyork.us or by emailing rules@nyccfb.info. Again, you may submit comments at rules.cityofnewyork.us or by emailing rules@nyccfb.info. Now, turning to today's hearing, regarding testimony, if you have contacted us in advance to state your intent to testify, our Zoom administrator will promote you in the order in which we received your email. And if you have joined this hearing without letting us know in advance that you would like to testify, please use the raise your hand function in Zoom in order to indicate that you would like to speak. If you cannot use the hand raise feature for whatever reason, you can also notify us that you would like to speak by submitting a request in the Q&A function in the bottom of your Zoom toolbar. We will promote you to speaker in the order in which we receive your request. We'll start by giving each speaker 3 minutes to testify. Depending on whether there is time given those present at the hearing and you would like to speak again after your initial 3 minutes, we will go through the entire list of all those wishing to testify and come back to anyone who would like to testify a second time. Simply raise your hand after you have spoken and we will put you back on the list to speak. When you are promoted to speaker, you may state your name if you wish to do so, but you do not have to identify yourself. With that, I would like to ask the first person to please begin their testimony when they are elevated to panelist. Hi, Rachel Faust.
Hello, good afternoon. I'm assuming I'm the first one.
Okay. Yes.
My name is Rachel Foss. I'm the Senior Policy Advisor for reInvent Albany. We advocate for more transparent and accountable government, and we thank the Campaign Finance Board for holding this hearing today. We write, and I speak now, to affirm our support for the Campaign Finance Board's proposed changes to its rules. While many of these are technical or conforming amendments that seek to clarify or tighten the rules, several also reflect recent events. For example, first being coordination between campaigns and independent expenditure committees in Section 14. This became a major issue during Sean Donovan's 2021 campaign for mayor, when the candidate was accused of coordinating with his father's PAC in support of Donovan's campaign. The regs also respond to changes from the Federal Election Commission, relaxing restrictions on coordination. We thank the CFB for adding control or financing from family members as a factor for determining whether the IE committee is actually independent of the candidate. We encourage CFB to look at whether multiple family members controlling IEs should be aggregated when they might otherwise not meet the 10% ownership threshold individually. Second, payments candidates make to individuals, such as influencers, to promote campaigns. This is in Section 16. Social media influencers did not exist in 1995. Now that they do, and campaigns have exploited them for candidates' benefit, we support CFB's new regulations ensuring paid-for by disclosures apply to influencers as well. Beyond rules changes, there are several changes that need to be made to the law to prevent further abuse of the campaign finance program. We understand this is beyond the CFB's own power, and this is a hearing about regulations. But given the mayor's federal indictment this week, we know there will be interest in further improving the law, and Reinvent Albany plans to examine the best ways to tighten the program in response to recent events. One change that should be made that we've looked at previously is to fix the loophole that allows PACs whose funders have business before the city to contribute more than the 250 doing business limit. As we and Four Watchdogs noted in a letter to CFB last year, James Dolan, the CEO of Madison Square Garden Sports and Madison Square Garden Entertainment, contributed $83,000 out of $241,000 to MSG's PAC, which then went on to make contributions of $1,000 each to a number of city council candidates and a donation of $2,000 to Mayor Adams' campaign. This obviously violates the intent of the doing business law, and we encourage the CFB to help craft legislation to close this loophole. In the meantime, we appreciate that the CFB proposed an update to its rules to facilitate a future law change by applying the same factors to doing business contributions as are used for reviewing whether other contributions come from a single source. Thanks so much for considering our testimony.
Thank you so much, Rachel. And will everyone raise your hand if you intend to testify, whether you've signed up or not? Please raise your hand, and we'll move next to the next speaker.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Joanna's Denise, and I'm the Deputy Director of the Elections and Government Program at the Brennan Center for Justice. Thank you for the opportunity to provide comments on the proposed updates to the CFB's rules. The Brennan Center supports many of these amendments, and in particular, the updates to strengthen coordination rules, modernize the definitions of electioneering communications and express advocacy, and address the rise of paid influencers in elections. I'll focus my comments on these specific amendments. First, on coordination. Existing CFB rules already provide clear guidance about types of conduct that can constitute coordination, but even these rules contain gaps, and we commend you for seeking to fill them. This is a noteworthy contrast to the federal level, where the Federal Election Commission has continued to erode coordination regulations and grant campaigns greater license to coordinate with outside groups. We agree with the amendments that you've proposed, but we respectfully offer a few suggestions to tighten them further. That includes recharacterizing the list of scenarios from factors that the board may consider to factors that trigger a presumption of coordination. States including California, Washington, and Connecticut all follow this approach. We also recommend indicating types of conduct that generate a per se finding of coordination, as well as types that give rise to a rebuttable presumption of coordination. Given time constraints, I refer you to my written submission for more detail. We also support the proposed updates to modernize the definitions of electioneering and express advocacy communications. These updates can ensure that the definitions keep pace with changes in technology and campaigning. We suggest modestly expanding the applicable window for electioneering, and as the definitions themselves expand, we also suggest ensuring that there are appropriate exceptions to avoid sweeping in conduct that shouldn't be subject to electioneering rules like bona fide commercial speech. And finally, we strongly support the proposed updates to address the rise of paid influencers. This is another area that federal regulators have notably failed to address, and one that makes our elections more vulnerable to foreign influence. This proposed rule is a step forward that can set an important example for other jurisdictions to follow. I'd be happy to discuss any of our suggestions further, and thank you all for your work on behalf of New York voters.
Thank you, Joanna. And now the next speaker will be elevated. Ben Weinberg.
Yes. Hi, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you, Mr. Gallagher. Good afternoon. My name is Ben Weinberg, and I'm the Director of Public Policy at Citizens Union. We thank you for holding this public hearing on the package of proposed amendments to the CFB rules. Citizens Union is broadly supportive of the proposed amendments that are discussed today. We provide some details to those amendments in our written testimony, but for the sake of this public hearing, I will focus my comments on the 3 comments that we have submitted to the board in writing. First one is section 14 that discusses factors for determining independent expenditures. We know that the amount of dollars that has been spent on municipal election from independent expenditures has risen significantly in the past decade. Much of that growth came from the mayoral race, and in the last citywide election, actually every leading mayoral candidate had her or his own dedicated IEs that supported them. Now, we also saw in recent years campaigns that have attempted to skirt those the ban coordination by using legal loopholes. One example was mentioned earlier with an IE that was heavily funded by a candidate's father in the 2021 election. Another example is in the 2022 election, a gubernatorial election, when an IE that supported the candidate for governor employed the candidate's campaign committee co-chair and contracted his pollster. We have long supported strengthening the rules and regulations to govern such cases and have recommended that to the CFB in the past, especially concerning the involvement of family members and former government and campaign staff. We thank the board for adopting this suggestion and express our strong support for these proposed new factors. We do want to know that adopting these rules is especially critical as we enter a citywide election year. We wrote this testimony before the recent developments, and we would like to note again that this is even more important to adopt these rules in case we have a citywide election that will happen before June of next year. One specific comment on those issues and on section 14 is about the 10% ownership interest threshold. As one mentioned here earlier, one of the new factors is for determining whether an expenditure is independent is in a case where a family member holds or held 10% or more interest rate, but that applies to each family member listed in the paragraph individually. To prevent IEs and campaigns from skirting this new proposed factor, we recommend that the 10% threshold be defined to apply all family members listed in that paragraph in the aggregate. The last comment we make is on section 5, and that is the requirement to maintain a website and social media site. That is in the section that defines what does broadly soliciting vote means, and that's in the case where a candidate who loses the primary election remains on the ballot for the general election and must prove to the CFB that they still have an active campaign. Although we do support the intent of that proposed rules, we note that it does require campaigns to show links to campaign website and any campaign social media site that are updated to show general election.
Just a few more moments.
Yeah, I'm finishing up. Apologies. That new requirement apply only to these candidates that the group of candidates that have lost their primary and go on to run in the general election, and will not apply to other candidates. So we believe the CFB should amend those rules to either harmonize that requirement across campaigns or make that requirement not necessarily, and make that requirement optional to make sure that campaigns are treated equally. Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here. And Alicia, no.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
Oh, not at all.
Good afternoon. I'm Annalisa Finola, the Political Action Fund Director of 1199 SEIU United Healthcare Workers East, whose 450,000 members include home care, nursing home, and hospital workers in New York City. 1199 SEIU members are deeply engaged in the city's elections, and 1199 regularly communicates with its members and the public about candidates for city office. 1199 plans to submit written comments on the CFB's August 28 proposal to expand its requirements for the involvement of unions and other groups in elections. We appreciate the extension of time for this comment, which was imperative given the CFB's abrupt notice and short comment period, which was time when affected organizations like 1199 are mostly heavily focused on the imminent and critical federal and New York State elections. We have significant concerns with the proposal's likely impairment of 1199 and its members' ability to participate in the political process. Here are a few preliminary points to consider. Our comments will explain these in more detail, as well as identify and expand on other objections. First, late timing of the proposed rule change on the eve of an election year is simply wrong. If the CFB believed that its current rules about coordination, express advocacy, electioneering communications, or disclaimers were deficient, then it could have proposed any of these changes soon after the 2021 election cycle. That would have enabled full public participation and planning for 2025. The proposal cites no event or change in law requiring any of these changes, let alone at this late date. Worse, every proposed new factor for determining whether there is coordination would implicate a group's conduct stretching back to January 2022 or even earlier, with no notice to the groups and individuals affected that their conduct could legally entrap them in 2025. The CFB has no authority to issue retroactive rules. Second, on the merits, the 6 newly proposed coordination standards are based on the unjustified assumption that distant, unimportant, and even coincidental and unrelated facts render truly independent communications subject to investigation and fines as coordinated contributions. That is disrupting and chilling of political activity and the freedom of people to move between jobs in an absolutely normal and efficient manner. Third, the CFB interprets current law to mean that membership communications are subject to the coordinated contribution rules, requiring 1199 and other groups to limit their members' engagement with candidates they support. Expanding the coordination standards as proposed would make an indefensibly hostile legal environment for freedom of association that much more hazardous and mainly to the members' detriment. Finally, for now, we oppose the proposed elimination and replacement of the current exception form independent expenditure treatment of internet communications not placed for a fee on another person's website. This would expose email, social media, uploads, websites, and other such outlets that have become second nature to oppressive enforcement and penalties. But given the prevalence of online communications, the CFB at best could expect to secure compliance only haphazardly and arbitrarily. Innumerable individuals and groups would become unwilling law violators, bringing disrepute upon the CFB and the law itself for no evident public purpose. Thank you for the opportunity to make these comments.
Thank you for being here.
Hi.
Whenever you're ready.
Great, thank you. Thank you, New York City Campaign Finance Board. My name is Sarah Pennenberg, and I work at SEIU 32BJ as a political coordinator. I appreciate the opportunity to share my comments regarding the NYC CFB August 28th proposal rule changes. Local 32BJ is a labor organization that represents over 70,000 plus members who live in New York. Local 32BJ maintains an active year-round effort to involve its membership in the aspects of city and New York City government and how it affects them. First, the NYC CFB rule change happened too quickly. Without enough opportunity for public comment, the rules were proposed in August on the 28th, with the intended deadline to have comments on a hearing on September 27th. During a historical state and federal election, while comments have been extended to October 25th, it's inappropriate for the CFB to push through such sweeping changes without more opportunity for input. And we ask CFB again to give additional time for comment and another public hearing. Second, the proposed changes to the factors is considered when determined if independent expenditures is an illegal contribution are way and far too broad and overreaching and could sweep a huge amount of activity that is no way and actually coordinated into the CFB defined coordination. For example, the new rules would have the potential to treat things like supporting a union officer or a staffer who runs for office, or using routine campaign vendors as proof of unlawful coordination, even where absolutely no evidence of actual coordination exists, and without providing any steps independent expenditures can take to avoid such presumption. Third, the proposed changes apply reporting and disclaimer requirements used for traditional media like TV and mailers to unpaid internet communications like social media, posts, emails, candidate endorsements, and posted on, for example, a 32BJ website, with no guidance on how to track costs associated with these things. Even with clear guidelines, tracking, and reporting, these costs would be absurdly time-consuming and seriously prevent the union from speaking to its membership online. For this reason, we ask that you rescind these proposed changes or at least revise them in line with our comment, which we'll be submitting post this hearing. Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here.
More than time, it would be patience. But let me get right to it. Thank you for having me. My name is Javon Terrell Ross. I'm one of the mayor candidates for 2025. And basically, it's in my heart to share that we should consider a complete reformation on the entire campaign approach. It would eliminate a lot of the corruption and a lot of these issues that we're coming up against that we don't even really need to deal with. If we ran our campaigns in such that a way that we didn't need to get any of the money from anyone, like we don't need people's dollars. We need to go out and meet people. We need to go out and understand what's going on in the community, get down on the ground and talk to people. We pay people currently. The system is saying, hey, pay us to be your representative. Pay us so that you can vote for us. But then we have so many people that don't get into office that have taken all these dollars from people, but nobody's giving anyone their change back. It's time for us to give people their change back. We've taken their dollars. Let's give them their change. So if we have this approach where we say, hey, you know what? If we're going to use money, then it needs to be universal. There's a cap on everybody. Nobody can, if anybody contributes, if people want to still contribute, then let that go into one universal pot that is distributed to the one person who actually ends up in that office to use for the people. The people are putting the money in, the people should get the change back. How do we make $1 out of 15 cents? People have given us all their dollars, but nobody's given them the 15 cents change that we deserve as a people to get in return. Everyone here, if we take a new approach to how we put people into office, it should be a voluntary situation. And I'm going to tell you right now, when you put me into office, I don't want to get paid for it. I'm volunteering my services because that's what we should be doing out here. We shouldn't be taking people's money for them to make us popular on TV so we can say, oh, look at me, I'm running for this, I'm doing that. But then you never get in office. And then when we do get in the office, we don't do anything about it. We just sit there and keep collecting money and keep watching people suffer. We need to make the change that is required from all the dollars that have already been invested. What is done with all the money after the campaign is over? Can anybody answer that question? What's really done with that money? For the people that don't get into office, what do they do with that money? It should go right back to the people if we're going to keep taking money. I'm going to finish up here. I just want to say one thing. There's 3 R's, and this will take care of everything. We need to learn how to respect in love, reform in love, so that we can restore in love. And apply that to anything, whether it's a business or a relationship.
And
restore
that's
in
3
love.
minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
It was my honor. God bless you.
I think that is all the speakers with their hands raised. So if there is no further testimony, this hearing is now closed. The time is 1:34 p.m. Thank you everyone for appearing today and have a good weekend. Oh, another speaker. I'm going to have to do my timestamp again. One more speaker. One moment.
Yeah.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, excellent. First of all, you look mighty sharp. That's the first thing. Wear your glasses, all right?
Thank you.
Yeah. I actually want to agree with it. I've never heard of him before. What he just said was, yeah, it was really on point. Javon, forgot his last name, but I also believe exactly what he's saying, and I do prove some of the, but I have a different angle on this. I don't know if this is what this is, but when it comes to the Senate and all the voters, the problem is when we engage in this political process, right, the public needs a more clear understanding when it comes to, let's say, candidates' political views on all issues from economics, gun policies, crime, illegal, aliens, or budget, whatever the case may be. The thing is, there need to be one site that is created to allow everyone to know exactly what that politician believes, and very clear, like unambiguous understanding of what they believe. Because when it comes to like voting, they send out these things in the mail to all the public, but it really doesn't tell specifically. It gives like little tits, little bits and stuff of what it is, but they don't go into detail. So I propose that along with the money that these guys get, that must be mandatory, that there's a website that everybody contributes, and each politician indicates specifically in detail what they actually hold true to their understanding of what they will do when they get into office. So that's something that came to mind, because when I search for the information, it's very difficult to find something very clear and easy to understand. Just me being a regular person, it's a little difficult. So I would propose that. And in closing, one quick question: did you read all those books, you?
Working on it. Thank you for
right.
being here and for your testimony.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here who'd like to testify or provide comment? Please raise your hand. Let's see. Okay. If there is no further testimony, this hearing is now closed. The time is 1:38 p.m. Thank you all and have a good weekend. And just a reminder that the public comment period will run until October 25th, 2024. Thank you.